It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Matt Cooke and Kimeran Johnson. On the left is Matt. He is the VP of Consulting Strategy at Callbox. For the past 10 years, Matt has worked with thousands of healthcare organizations to improve their strategic operations, optimize their caller experience, capitalize on marketing efforts, and streamline operational workflow. He's led numerous webinars and speaking engagements, specifically in the dental industry. Prior to his time at Callbox, Matt led project teams at Epic Systems, consulting with healthcare organizations of all sizes across the United States. Matt, just wave in case they're confusing you with the blonde girl next to you, Kimeran Johnson. Kimeran Johnson is the Director of Client Acquisition at Scheduling Institute, and today is her 15-year anniversary at Scheduling Institute.
That's right.
My gosh, you think you get a cupcake or something, not have to go on my show. You must be in the timeout box. For the past 15 years, Kimeran has worked with dentists and their teams to streamline processes in the practice around new patient acquisition. She helps them leverage data and training to produce greater results in marketing and team performance. Kimeran has experience in training management marketing. In fact, she trained my office, Today's Dental, on their 5-star new patient phone training. And that was one of the best. Do you remember that, Kimeran?
I sure do.
You kept saying I remember it was so confusing for you because you kept thinking I was Brad Pitt, and I kept saying no, I'm Howard Farran.
I know.
I had to get my driver's license, but I'm embarrassed about that whole event because my buddy, dentist friend across the street, Tom Mattern.
Yep.
Do you know Tom Mattern?
I remember, yes.
He told me for like 5 years, dude, you got to get the scheduling, so you got to get him. And I'm just like, I was trying to place implants and get bone grafting and MAGD and all this stuff like that. And I was so amazed how your company, Scheduling Institute, founded by Jay Geyer, I mean, that was a total new genre. I mean, that wasn't a Me Too product. He was the first guy that said, answering the phones is pretty damn important. And
That's
we're
right.
like, oh, well, the dentist should have 8 years of college. The hygienist should have 4. My assistants all went to 1 year of Phoenix College. But, the receptionist? Yeah, we'll just hire her off the street. We'll buy her a cup of Starbucks, and she's good to go. And then the reason I feel sorry for you guys, and I'm just being honest, the reason I would never do your company is because I know my dentist. If I say to my dentist, what bone graft do you use? He knows. What bonding agent? He knows. I mean, he knows everything about doing dentistry. Then I'll say, how many people landed on your website last month? No idea. How many people called your office? No idea. How many people went straight to voicemail? No idea. And then he hires a marketing company. And
Right.
they do a great job. 100 people land on the website and 10 call your office. He has no idea.
No idea.
Then I'll say, how'd that company go? Oh, they were horrible.
I don't know.
Oh, they're horrible. Nothing happened. I gave them $1,000 and nothing happened. Yeah, nothing happened. I mean, nothing happened in the cemetery last night either because they're all dead. And I would never go into a business with dentists where they had to know anything about measuring their numbers because my homies know everything but their numbers. The numbers is the only part they don't know, which is even more bizarre because they got A's in calculus. They're the only people in their town that know the difference between geometry and trig, like cosine, tangent me later, baby. I mean, it's such a weird thing where you have these doctors who know calculus, geometry, and trig, and they don't even know how many people called their office yesterday. So,
Right.
so what was your next worst idea besides going into a dentist answering their phones? What was your backup plan?
Howard, we're going to help all these people, right? That's our plan. The good news is, right? It's not that difficult to get your head wrapped around this stuff. So.
Well, I sat in on those trainings with you. And I mean, I could not believe, I don't want to throw anybody in a bus, but all my girls have been with me 20, 30 years. So here's Dawn. She's like the perfect employee. And then you taped her on the phone and they said, well, do you do Invisalign? And all she remembered is me saying, let's try this other company. Well, instead of using Invisalign, let's use another, a clear aligner. But all she said is, he used to, but he doesn't do that anymore. And I'm like, what? But I had never formally sat down. I had never taped her phone calls. I had no, and I'm even worse because the dentist across the street from me for 5 years, Tom Adler was saying, dude, you need to do this. You need to do this. You have no idea. It's really been good for us. And you just exploded his practice. So I'll shut up. Tell me what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so Matt, why don't you start? Because we kind of work together on this. And
we do, and I can't say enough great things about the Scheduling Institute and their programs here. It's really, though, what we've found is it's really looking at the big picture here of making sure that not only are we looking at the trainings and the workflows and the operational procedures, but how are you going to measure and manage it? And our secret sauce here, and one of the pieces we really like about this is layering in technology and making sure that we're really kind of melding those two together so that we're making it easier for everybody. Because at the end of the day, as you know, Howard, there's so much going on within the office, and it's rarely a situation where the office doesn't want to do a good job. It's just that there's so much happening. How do you make it easier? And we've really found that it's looking strategically at how are you training, how are you building out workflows and goals for your team, but also too, how are you getting the right tools and technology to make that a reality?
Yeah.
Hey, go ahead.
Well, and I think, these guys we're very data focused in that, we believe anything you track improves, right? So, right, when you track, but you don't necessarily get the solution to fix the problem that the data is telling you, right? So it's like track it, know what's working, what's not working. And then, where Scheduling Institute really thrives is like teaching them what to do to fix it, right?
Okay, well, let me show you how that doesn't work, though. Because when you track it, well, I'll go on Matt. Matt, your Nashville Titans are 4-5. I've tracked it. So what are you going to do, Matt?
Sadly, I changed it to Chandler. I think at this point, they couldn't score this week.
So yeah, what you don't know, I mean, Kimeran, you've been in this ballpark for 15 years. How many dentists in America today could tell you how many people called their dental office in the month of October?
If any, not many.
You're probably looking at the only one.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of our clients for sure, right?
So let's back up a little bit because we've been flying fast. Matt, first tell them what Callbox is, and then Kimeran, tell them what Scheduling Institute is. So let's start with basics. A lot of these, at least a quarter of my listeners are still in dental kindergarten school, so they may have zero idea of ever hearing this before.
No worries. So Callbox, we are a provider of a variety of technological solutions to make it easier to manage what's happening on the web and on the phone. And our goal and where there's a lot of synergy here and where Kimeran and I have worked closely together for a long time is that we want to be able to arm organizations with information and make it easier to gather that information. Because one of the biggest constraints we see across the board with our clients, and we work with some of the largest DSOs in the US, is there's never enough time in the day. And how do you find out not only what is happening, but how do you make that information actionable? And that's really the bridge that the Callbox wants to help solve for.
Okay, and then Kimeran, what is the Scheduling Institute if you are only 21 years old and at AT Still University Dental School in Mesa, Arizona? How would you explain it?
So we can provide all the team training solutions that you need around all the areas of management, right? So we don't do like clinical training and then coaching for doctors. So we're coaching, training, and then we do a lot of big events where doctors and their teams can come learn about those type things, right? Management type things. But, we really believe that human capital is like the secret, right, to a practice. So, yes, marketing's important and, yes, you're building and all that, but your people are what make this machine work, right? And Jay Geyer, our founder and CEO, really believes that every person has more potential than they'll ever think they have themselves. So we really like to help bring out people's potential, right? So when we do coaching, we're bringing out the doctor's greatest potential. And when we do team training, we're bringing out the team members' greatest potential. And so we're teaching them like ways to do the job they're already doing better, to produce a better result. But the really cool thing is, like, if you ask our doctors and our team members, like, what do you love most about working with us? They're not really going to say like the results. They're going to say it made them like a better person, right? A better leader, a better team member, a better, someone better to treat patients, a better family member. So it's really about the person, right? The people.
Well, you tell your boss, Jay Geyer, he was on this show. He was episode number 198, and that was in 2015. It's 29. He had 1,500 views on YouTube before we even started on YouTube. I mean, tell him he'd had 10 times the reach we came now. But like I say, yeah. I love Jay because he just saw this big, massive void that no one was ever talking about. And I was so dumb, someone had to tap on my shoulder for 5 years before I could even see what he was talking about. But I want to ask a couple specifics. Someone lands on my website, and they decide, which is todaysdental.com. So you go to todaysdental.com. That's my dental office in Phoenix, and then they call my office. Is any of that tracked in any of the over-the-counter dental practice management systems? Like the biggest ones are Dendrix, EagleSoft, Open Dental, SoftDent. Do any of those guys track that stuff?
Not really is the short answer there, Howard, because the challenge for them and any of those kind of systems that is it's dependent on the team member entering in the information into the scheduling system. So what you have a great visibility into in Dendrix and a lot of those other solutions is how many patients actually made it into the books. And from there, you can certainly track no-show rates and all of those kind of different pieces. But what you're missing visibility into is what's leaking out before it makes it to Dendrix. So is it when they're calling into the practice? Did we place that new patient on hold and they hung up before they even tried to schedule the appointment? Or is there some kind of behavior on the phone that my team's doing that's not leading to the appointment even making it into Dendrix? And that's really where having some type of technology to be able to kind of hone in on those, kind of tee up those examples for you, but also arm you with the data and information to really make those workflows that Kimeran's talking about more powerful is really where there's a lot of synergy here. That's really a lot of Kimeran and I's collaboration is.
What industries then have it that when I call you, my screen pops up? I mean,
I'm sorry.
What companies are that when you call them, like when you're staying at the Marriott, you call the front desk. Good evening, Howard Farran. How may I help you? I mean, I can tell there's a lot of places that I've called that when they answer, they already know who was on the phone.
Absolutely.
So am I just paranoid, or I mean, so why is that not in dentistry?
And it's really a matter of it's getting there. And we're trying to, that's part of the bridge that Kimeran and I are really trying to get out there. And hopefully your listeners today are thinking about how they can bring this technology and this approach. Because the honest answer is dentistry and medical in general is a little bit behind from a phone and technology perspective. Certainly there's a variety of different operational challenges. As you know, running a practice is not an easy undertaking by any means. But part of how those groups like Marriott and some of the others have gotten to that place is they've prioritized the investment, and they have really emphasize that element of technology as a part of their strategic plan and their goals.
You know what's embarrassing for me is I'm 50. I was born in 62. I'm 57, and most of my generation of dentists are very conservative politically, and yet there's only two industries where you have to wait in line: government and healthcare. I mean, when you look at everything that went, it's just like when you look at anything that went wrong, it's always healthcare and government. I mean, we're like Dumb and Dumber at the bottom of every list, and it just really fries me and my conservative dentist friends to see us lumped in with those bozos. I mean, it's it just blows my mind. Like the United States was almost paperless in the year 2000. And yet when every time I go down to the governor of, and have to do something with the government of Phoenix, you know, they'll ask me my name, my address. It's like, really? I pay $1 million a year in taxes. You don't even know my address? Really? and then they want all these paper cards and all, you know. So obviously the dentist doesn't understand the value of this. Right. So explain the value. Why a dentist thinks, you know, if I want to have the greatest practice in the world, I need to do the best bone graft with a Noble BioCare implant. And why he's placing that, he has no idea that 3 people called his office, 2 went straight to voicemail, and the other one, here's how 1/3 of all the phone calls are answered in dentistry. Can you please hold? So explain.
If they're answered.
Explain to them. They know applied geometry is trig, so they're not dumb. So explain what they don't get. They obviously aren't seeing something.
I mean, Howard, I think to answer that and piggyback on what y'all were talking about earlier, you know, here we just believe that, right, your practice is a business, right? So I think what Jay does really well, which you get and appreciate, is to treat it like that. So look around at some of these successful companies that, you know, you reference Marriott or, you know, Nordstrom's or, you know, Apple, right? Like, instead of a doctor kind of head down thinking about just being a doctor, what our goal is to teach doctors how to run a business, right? So when you start thinking of your practice as a business and you start getting, you know, opening your eyes to look around at successful businesses and borrow what they're doing, right? To your point, you call the Marriott, your name pops up. Well, you know, maybe that's not the extreme you're going to go to in a practice, but like, what kind of experience do you have at a Ritz-Carlton? What kind of experience do you have at Nordstrom's, Starbucks, whatever? I mean, I think, you know, we're seeing this happen, right? Treat it like a business and start doing things like a business person would do, right? Exactly. Good businessmen, right? The successful ones we admire have data, right? They run these plans off data. So
how are you guys working together? When you go in to train the front desk to answer, first of all, what is the politically correct term for the front desk? I mean, do you call them receptionist? Do you call them front desk?
I mean, we refer to them as the front desk team, right? So we've stopped calling people staff. We used to use staff for a long time at Scheduling Institute.
You mean Staphylococcus infection? Staff.
That's right.
Are you talking about a staff infection or the staff in my office?
That's right, right?
Do you know how many people work in my office?
How many?
About half. No, that's a joke. Yeah, I love puns. You know, you're thinking of a number, and I tell you how. So basically, so you taught my office. I mean, by the way, Jay was down here a couple weeks ago, and he had his executive bunch there. That was the biggest collection of multi-million-dollar practices that have probably ever assembled in Phoenix, Arizona. And sure, you can get there by doing great quality dentistry, but that ain't why they're there. They're doing great business. And if you do great business, you have $1 million practice, and you may or may not be a good dentist, but you can be the best dentist in town and go broke. So I get that. So you guys are working together. So what? They want to train office, so then you go in and install the Callbox technology. And is it VoIP? Is it phone over the internet? How does call? I mean, you're in like 50,000 different businesses. How do you actually technically do it, and what does it cost?
Absolutely. So we are, and Callbox works across a variety of industries, medical and otherwise. And in the medical space, we tend to be more in the DSO and larger scale arena. SI is a fantastic product, call tracker, that is really a great solution for single practices. And the key part of this technology is it can sit right on top of your phone system. And that's part of what makes it so easy to install, so easy to get running, is that we use technology called tracking lines. And what that allows us to do is capture what's happening on the phone and feed that through a team of human reviewers. And that's what's uniquely different than a lot of other solutions out there, is that we're really listening to what's happening on those calls to tee up the analytics and the feedback of what's happening on the phone, so that it makes it easier to really work into those pieces that Kimeran's talking about around the workflows and the information to run a business. You're now able to make informed decisions with data. And that's really where our solution technologically can help businesses. Pricing wise, it's really all over the map. It depends on the size of the group and the scale of what is being reviewed. As you know, really no two practices are identical. So we certainly do take that into account when looking at the engagement.
Yeah, and I was also wondering, it seems like when you say you work with individual offices and DSOs, I would imagine at a certain size of a DSO, they would bring all this in-house and have their own call center and their own technology. What size of DSOs are you still helping before they bring this all in-house? So, like, for instance, Heartland has their own call center in Effingham, Illinois, and Rick told me that the only limit to its growth is Effingham, Illinois. It's only a town of 10,000. He said, I've hired every single person without a job in Effingham to work my call center because he knows how important that is. He's also the only dentist in the world who's what you call a billionaire. And and he hasn't worked on teeth for 25 years. He mastered the business of dentistry. So now, is this something where Heartland uses Callbox, or does Heartland do all this themselves?
Heartland does utilize Callbox. Funny enough, I was actually in Effingham a couple weeks ago, and I can say certainly I think I prefer Atlanta a little bit more. But it definitely, the challenge for large DSOs is that there's certainly pieces that make sense to bring in-house. Leveraging, there's a lot of great call center products out there. Cisco is one that I'm a big fan of.
Cisco.
But what's different about that is that's really handling the logistics of how do you operate the call center. So that's looking at the actual hardware itself of how the phones, the queuing, the different pieces of getting a call from into the call center all the way to Agent Matt. What Callbox really focuses on is we want to bridge the gap for them around what's happening on those calls. Where are those calls coming from? Is it from marketing efforts, so tying that information back to the Heartland marketing team? Or is it more on the operational side of understanding that when I spend $10 million on a Invisalign campaign in the Northwest, here's what the impact is going to be in the call center. So arming them with that information is really where Callbox's niche is there for a group like a Heartland. And they've actually been a longtime client. I am definitely enjoy working with them closely.
My warmest memory of Effingham was I loved, and it's only like 10,000 people, is when I was at the McDonald's and I overheard them talking about how they had a new grill that cooked the top of the hamburger and the bottom of the hamburger. And I said, oh my God, my dad was in Sonic Drive-Ins. I would kill to go back there and make my own damn hamburger. And the manager says, well, then come back and make your own damn hamburger. And you know, you can't do that in L.A. You can't do that in Atlanta. There'd probably be some government code against that. Yeah. And I got to go back in that deal, lay the patties on the grill, push a button, and then the top grill came down. So it cooked the bottom, the top, and then held its shape. And I just love them down-home, down-earth people. You know, if you would have asked that in Phoenix, when I come back there, they're probably going to give me some big legal answer about, you know, the lawyer said. But anyway, so you're basically, yours is all a software application. I mean, Matt, do you even need to go to the office when someone starts working with a Callbox? Is this all over the phone long distance, or is the scheduling institute people the ones that go in, or how's this work?
It really depends on the engagement. I am a huge believer of avoiding cookie cutter designs on projects, and certainly it depends on what their goals and objectives are. For example, for Heartland, we'll be there very regularly working with all kinds of operational teams ranging from marketing to the call center. But it really is. And it goes back to Kimeran's point earlier, it depends on what's going to be actionable for you. And as you look at, as a practice owner, as a DSO owner, or really wherever your stage of organization is, what's the information that's going to move the needle for you and make your day easier and allow you to accomplish some of the pieces that Kimeran was talking about here. And that's really where Kimeran and I have worked closely over the years. Is I'm a huge believer of what the Scheduling Institute it just really teaches, and how they're looking at the whole element of running it as a business and thinking about where data fits with that. And that's why when we have engaged together, it's been one that there's a lot of synergy here of really workflows work better with information.
Well, and we'll get, Howard, we'll get people who call and say, like, I need new patients, right? But they, to your point, don't know if their phone's ringing, right? They think that they just need to make the phone ring more, right? So what we're always able to uncover is if they have tracking, then we can pick that data up, tell them exactly what's happening, and then go right in and fix it because we know exactly what to train on. Right? If they don't have that data, then our advice is, right? You mentioned a lot of your listeners are younger doctors, right? They don't know what to do first. It's make sure your team's trained first, right? It's like making sure there's a bottom to the bucket, and then pour money into marketing, right? You pour money into marketing before your team's trained. It's like you said earlier, it's just like opening the window and letting money fly out. If you have that team trained, that's your foundation, right? Yep. Then you start marketing a little bit. You use a tracking system so that you know immediately what's working and what's not working. You're not taking risk, right? Yep. You're spending money in marketing. You've got that safety net. Then your data is telling you exactly what marketing is working or not. It's like the perfect little machine that should just give a doctor tons of confidence around marketing and conversion on the phone.
Absolutely. And all of those pieces are super important together. And that's where I cannot agree more is doing only one of the three, you're not going to get the lift. It's right. You have to really think about how am I, by training and teaching my team, how do I have the data and analytics to know what's working? And then how am I building the workflows to lead to the outcomes we want, which is ultimately helping the patient.
You said it's one of the three. What are the three?
I would say it's the thinking about the training workflows and how you're going to be teaching your team what to do there, the data and analytics of what's working and where is there opportunity, and then the operational workflows around making sure that you're driving the outcomes you're looking for, which is ultimately helping the patient.
Okay, I don't think a 21-year-old in dental school knows what an operational workflow is.
Fair enough. So thinking about when someone calls in, how are you making sure that when that person calls in, you're not only just answering their questions, but you're helping them book that appointment for you? So taking about the what do I say, what do I do, so that when I call into your practice asking if you do Invisalign, the response there is not, oh no, he doesn't do that anymore. I'm now actually going to know what I should be saying. And that's because there's a manager there that is helping train and teach their team with the data that's showing where they need to be improving or in many cases celebrating success.
Well, you know what I think would be the coolest thing that you guys could do is for Mother's Day, which is May 10th. I don't know when Father's Day is. My father passed away. Well, I'll Google it. Mother's Day is Father's Day is June. Yeah. Is you ought to do a gift for Mother's Day, Father's Day, where when I'm in these dental schools, a quarter of the class, their mom or dad is a dentist. And you could really be your mom's hero for Mother's Day, your dad's hero for Father's Day, because this is what your dad and your mom doesn't know. This is what I believe the numbers are. I believe the numbers are for every 100 people that land on your pathetic website or any dental website, it converts about 3 to call the office. 3 people have to call the office before your receptionist talks to one of them because the other 2 went to voicemail, not answered, whatever. 3 people have to connect with your girl before she gets 1 to come in. 3 people have to come in with the same cavity on 1 tooth before you can convince one of them to convert to do a filling. So when we look at a dental office where they're doing $780,000, taking home an $180,000. So your mom makes $180,000 a year. And you know how she made $180,000? Because she did 1 filling out of the 3 that came in. To get the 3 that came in, 9 had to call the front desk. For 9 to call the front desk, what is like 300 had to land on your website. Dude, if you fix anything on the funnel, your mom's a damn millionaire. So 100 people land on the website, 3 call. I want one of you to answer that. 100 people land on the website, 3 call. What up with that? I mean, how do you even get them to know this is real? They don't know it.
And that's where data comes in. At the end of the day, it's putting the real numbers in front of people. And the conversation we have quite a bit with organizations of all sizes is really centered on if you don't have a baseline, you're shooting in the dark, and that's a lot harder to get better about. And it would be the equivalent of trying to do the procedures that you do on a daily basis with your eyes blindfolded. You wouldn't do it. And that's really what we want organizations to really think about, is that without looking at the data and without collecting the data to take action on it, it's the equivalent of trying to do a tooth drilling blindfolded.
Are you telling me that Stevie Wonder can't be a dentist?
I would say I don't think Stevie Wonder's doing anything on my
I'm not going to.
I feel sorry. I've always wondered this. Stevie Wonder's only blind because they had just came out with the incubator, and the atmosphere is 20.9% oxygen. So, of course, somebody thought, well, 20.9% oxygen is good. 100 is even better. So it blinded like 20 kids before they figured out that was a bad idea. But I always think if Stevie wouldn't have been in the first 20 incubators and he had vision, he would have been distracted. We'd probably never even know his name. It was probably being blinded that tied him down the piano. But so that's my point. The dentists listen to you. They're like, oh, are you kidding? My girl up front, she's the best. She's been on my team 15 years. She was my daughter's uncle's cousin's whatever. She was, they always have this emotional relationship reason of why Captain Flawless is perfect at the front desk. And I don't like calling him front desk. I don't think anybody should have a job named after a piece of furniture. At least call him the front chair or the front door. Why don't you just call her the front door? Really, the desk? I'd rather be named after the door than the desk. But how do you convince these people that they have no idea, they wouldn't even know how many people landed on their website? Just little things like you go to some websites and you see that little chat box pick up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I've read stuff in great references that can double the influence. Like a website that maybe gets 3% converting to call, that little chat box on its own will get another 3%. I've heard things that don't put still pictures, put YouTube videos. I put YouTube videos up on mine. The 2 biggest markets, afraid of the dentist and afraid of the cost. So I have me talking about don't be afraid of the dentist on my website, and my office manager talking about don't be afraid of the cost. There's no silver bullet to get everybody to land on your website to call. So there's no silver bullet. It's probably about 100 different bullets that can each get you 1%. But so they don't know how many people landed on their website. So they have no idea how many converted. Okay, so now let's go to the next step. They call. I am told that for every 3 people, it takes 3 people to call your office for 1 to convert to make an appointment. And we're not even talking if they show or not, just 3 incoming calls for 1 conversion. Kimeran, is that the numbers you're seeing at Scheduling Institute? Or is it better than that or worse than that?
No, it is definitely not better than that. It could be worse than that. Just some results from when we go in and fix it, right? So to your point, you don't know how many people are calling, you don't know how many you're losing, but So we do this cool thing kind of to answer your question, right? Like, how do we convince these people this is important, right? So we do something, and you've seen it, you talked about it, right, with Dawn. It's kind of controversial, right? But it's like undeniable proof, right? So we mystery call. And this is like a thing good businesses do, right? To go back to what we were saying earlier, like borrow good business practices. The Ritz-Carlton, right? They have shoppers, mystery shoppers, right? Nordstrom. So all these companies we admire, they have people like auditing the processes that are important, right? So we do that as part of what we do, right? So we do it to both help doctors who don't see it understand it's a problem, right? We mystery call their office. We act like a new patient, and we get to show them what happens when a new patient calls. And the majority of the time, right, they're floored and a lot of times really embarrassed, right? And then once we train with those offices to fix what was not fix, but refine how their team handles calls, then we continue to do that monitoring, one, to show them how much better they got after training, but also for that accountability to continuing to do that process the way we taught, right? So it's very eye-opening and important to the ongoing commitment to the process, right? Because it's just like a diet. You can decide you want to lose weight and get in shape, go to a trainer for a while, lose weight, get in shape. You get bored of going to the trainer, you quit, and, it's not long before you realize you got to go back to the trainer, right? So, it's just that, to Matt's point, it's just we can't keep reiterating. It's like, know the data, but you got to take action on the data, right? And then once you take action, you've got to continue to monitor the data and continue to take action on the data. So like our best clients teach I'm going to come up with another name because now you've pointed out the front desk thing and I can't get past that, right? But their team who answers the phone, right? They're really like patient acquisition specialists, right? Because the people who answer the phone are like your gatekeeper to your practice. So unless somebody's scheduling online or walking in, like they hold the key to whether that patient gets in your door, right?
Yeah, and they've had no training. I've lectured 1,000 times in 50 countries. My next lecture's in Israel. I mean, anybody who lectures, you just say front desk. Who's the front desk? They raise their hand. Okay, what is your job? Answer the phone. What else? Answer their questions. They don't know. No, it's to convert them from a call to a person in a chair. They don't even know their basic job description. And by the way, if you got all those mystery shopper calls, why don't you make a 1-hour bloopers video or something? Or
we totally could.
Well, let's do it. I'll make it
we totally could. That's brilliant.
Yeah,
Love
do it yourself. I'll make a podcast, or you send me an hour of it, and because the reason is, when I said Dawn's name, she still thinks it's funny. If you make people feel bad, they're not going to buy dentistry, right, and they're not going to work for you. When you have people that still stay with you 20, 30 years as a patient or a team member, well, you didn't do that by making them feel bad. You didn't do that by always being condescending. Matt, condescending means like when you talk down to people because they don't. So yeah, I wish you would make a mystery shopper video because
let's do it.
I think it's amazing. And so I've done this myself when I was selling you guys clients to my friends. My friends would say, I don't know. I think I'm going to go to the pancake. It's always their restaurant's going bankrupt and they're going to fix it by learning how to make lasagna or some new apple pie. It's never that your food's okay, but the business is horrible. And I'll sit there and on my phone and I call their office. I say, don't say a word. And then I call their office and it goes to voicemail. And they're like, I just left. And they're and then when they answer, and I'm always like, okay, because I've called you 100 times because, they don't answer their cell phone. You don't take your cell phone with you in the operatory. So you got to call the front desk and they'll sit there and it's always either go straight to voicemail or they answer, can you please hold? But one time, the best one, it was so great. I said, yeah, I just moved here from Wichita, Kansas. And my last dentist, right before I left, said I needed 4 crowns. And I was wondering, do you do crowns? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, is there any way you can do all 4 of them at the same time? And she said, probably. I said, oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, hey, thanks a lot. Thanks for answering my questions. I'll talk to you later. And she goes, goodbye. I thought, she don't even know who I am. She doesn't have a lead. She doesn't have a name. And my staff, after you train my staff, thank you very little. I sit there, used to just sneak out the back door and go home. Now I got to check out up front because you train my girls. And they're like, hey, we need you to call back Matt. And Matt called, and I was answering a question, but he didn't schedule. And I don't know what he got hung up on, but the mean people from the Scheduling Institute said that you should call this person back. This is a hot lead for you. And then you call him back, and you can tell that he's shocked. We went above his expectation. Right. No dentist ever called him back. And I said, hey, Matt. Hey, Dawn said you called today and you had some questions about a root canal or whatever, and she feels like she didn't answer some question. Anyway, she wanted me to call you back. What exactly was your concern about the root canal? And then it's always going to be price, the insurance pay is going to hurt. When can I return back to work? If it's a girl, what's it going to look like? Will it affect my Instagram selfie? Whatever. And in fact, I'll always go back to say, the easiest road to success is just always do the right thing, be good, and work hard. I mean, if you just get to work early and stay late, if you're just always doing the right thing, if you're just always treating people nice, if you're always making them feel better, that's why I like to cut up. That's why I like to say jokes, because I'm in a stressful profession, and it's so cool, to lighten them up, make them feel better, or whatever. So back to practice management software. I know you might be biased, Kimeran, because you're in Atlanta, and isn't that home of SoftDent and PracticeWorks?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe so. You know better than I do.
Yeah, SoftDent and PracticeWorks. So if she says SoftDent and PracticeWorks, sit there and say, Kimeran, are you drinking buddies with them girls over there? But is there any practice management software that you think's better than the others for what you do?
Well, we
don't have an opinion about that. We don't deal with that on our side.
In general, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, I would say. I am a big fan of Dendrix in general. I think it's a pretty good solution out there, but really it's more often than not, what truly makes a difference, Howard, is are you using it? Are you entering what you're supposed to in there? Do you have the workflows around entering the information? Because most practice management softwares, it's as good as the user workflows is really what we see more often than not.
Well, I want to do that bloopers video because, like I say, my girl's been with me 20 years, and I cannot believe what people say. Second of all, I want to tell you this, that there's a lot of good data that when they just put the camera over the cash register, embezzling dropped 99%. I mean, humans aren't dumb. They're not gonna steal money out of the cash register when you're filming it. I mean, you do things in your bathroom that you wouldn't do at the kitchen table during Thanksgiving dinner, And so what percent of dentists do you think just basic record all their phone calls? I mean, I can't call anybody who's publicly traded without hearing a ding, this phone call may be recorded for training purposes.
And I think the important point to that is what Matt just said, right? Like, you have to take action on it. So something we've really been working with our clients to understand is just because you're tracking, right? Tracking's not training, but tracking without taking action, right? So people have to pull this information out. And I mean, these systems are done in a way that it's, you just look at a simple report and you've got what you need, but you have to go take action on it, right?
So how did you say it? Tracking is not training?
Tracking's not training and training's not tracking. That's why this is such a great, I always say it's like a great marriage, because when our trainers go in and have data from a tracking system, they're so much more prepared on how to train, right? I mean, we have a core training program, but to know what kind of data is coming in, right? So if a team member says like, well, our phone doesn't ring enough, that's why we don't have enough new patients, we can immediately say, hey, the data actually says your phone is ringing. Let's focus on your part of this, which is conversion, right? So we want to make sure people understand, right? This is why we work so well together, that just because you're tracking doesn't mean, right, you're fixing it, right? So you've got to take action on that.
So you guys also do mystery shopper, and is the mystery shopper a mystery caller?
It is, right. So once you have a tracking system, right, you're getting real calls that are coming in and recorded. So the need for that mystery shopper to just hear your calls, right, is less. But to your point, right, the team members, so if you're a doctor and you're in this position, right, and you're like, well, what do I do? Well, you've got to install this stuff and you've got to prove to your team members you're paying attention. So if they know you're tracking, but you never bring up the fact that, their conversion rate went down or went up, then like they kind of know you're not paying attention, right? So the other cool part about what our system does is, we're kind of partnering and paying attention to that with you, right? So if a trainer comes in and trains, it's like, one, it's not the doctor telling them the same thing over and over, right? It's like Charlie Brown's teacher. Our trainer's like a third party. They have credibility. So they're bringing these things to the team members' attention, right? The data came out of a system that's reliable, and then the trainer's teaching them a process that's proven to work.
And I'm a big fan of mystery shoppers, mystery callers. I actually got a job doing that. Currently, I'm a mystery drinker. I just go to bars and see if give them a report. So how does so someone's listening? I mean, again, I feel sorry for you because you're trying to sell a product of consulting and managing their incoming phones, and the dentist knows nothing about it. If you were on here today saying, my God, I got a new sinus lift procedure, and it's the best sinus lift in the world, they would drive all the way from Chicago to Georgia. So what are some red flags that my homie's driving to work right now, and he's listening, he's saying, my office is cool, I do $1 million. And that's another thing I don't like about the $1 million now. The average dental office that sells is $750. And they take home $180. I swear to God, once that top line number goes over $1 million, I'm all that. I mean, just look at this. I do $1 million. Kimeran, what are you saying? That there's something wrong with my office? Did I not tell you I collect $1 million a year? And then they have to drop it like during. Yeah, I'd like to get the cheeseburger, French fries. Did you know I collect $1 million a year and a beer? And so this guy collects $1 million a year. So there's nothing. He has no problems. Instead of making 180, are you kidding me? I make 250. How can you? What are red flags that this guy still has problems at the phone? And how many offices have you met, Kimeran, in your lifetime that collect over $2 million?
We actually have a lot of doctors who are well over $1 million, right? And we've taken practices from under $1 million to multi-million, right? But I think it's right. It's like what Jay always says, your eyes only see and your ears only hear what your brain is looking for, right? So like when I think about our very best client, right? It's been with us probably as long as I've been here. He's done everything we tell him to do, right? And Jay talks about he used to drive to meetings in a, gold Camry with cloth interior and no air conditioning. And now he flies private, right? So, but he's that guy who, like, when someone says, hey, there's an opportunity to leverage, a team member or an asset you already have working for your practice, he goes after that, right? So, like, you may think you're doing as good as you want to do. If you want to do better, right? I mean, that's start number one is, do you want to do better than you're doing, right? And then take advice from people like us and you who have seen this opportunity. I always say with the new patient thing, it's like they're hiding under a rock. And it's literally like between what we both do, we're literally kind of picking up that rock and going, see, there's all those patients, right? So, it's like, you just have to be, if you want to grow and you want to get better and you want to have a better patient experience, right? Because that's something we haven't really talked about, is like,
this is Dentistry Uncensored. I want to ask the brutal question, the one that just makes them lose sleep at night.
all right.
Okay.
So you call up Matt and Kimeran, and they come in, they install software and training and all that kind of stuff. I joked about the Titans. They're 4 and 6. How do you decide, Doc? I don't think we can train Margaret up front. I mean, I think we should start from scratch, and it's so emotional. In fact, I'll tell you something about embezzling. Half the offices that get a dental practice management consultant have embezzling going over. Now, that doesn't mean half the offices are being embezzled, because why are offices calling dental office consultants? It's, because I'm not making much money. And They think, God, I'm working hard. Something's wrong. Well, that something half the time is someone stealing your money. And it could even be your wife. I mean, I've seen that a half dozen times. No, it is, where she starts embezzling. And the cases I know were all sending it out of the country, a couple to Australia, the rest for Canada, because she was thinking about a divorce. But while she was thinking about it, she was flowing about $6,000 a month out of the office. And then when he found out, now you called your card and she said, yeah, indeed, I am sick of this marriage. I am going to get a divorce. But anyway, the reason the embezzlement is so bad is because it's always someone you trusted. It's the personal violation. It's, God, you were my child's godmother. And so it's so tough, because so many dentists will tell me, well, I know I should fire her, but God, she's been with me 12 years. She's my cousin's roommate, sister's brother's mother, who lived across the street from my uncle's, How do you draw the line that we can't train Margaret? We need to fire Margaret and let her go. That's the toughest call in business, is HR. So dabble in that question.
Yeah, it's definitely real, right? You're absolutely right. I mean, that is kind of part of what you get with us when you sign up. So if you just take that front desk area, right? I mean, we're going to tell you the truth, right? We're kind of known for that. So, and I mean, you get this, Howard, right? Like, you tell the truth. You tell people what they need to hear, not necessarily what they want to hear, I think, right? And that's always been Jay Geyer's philosophy, because that's what's going to make people better, right? Data tells you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. When we go in for a training, right, whether it's using the data or we spend a day with a group of team members and one sat like this, and rolled her eyes the whole time, we don't skirt over that, right? We sit down with the doctor at the end of the day and we go through his people and say, hey, I think you got a great team, but Susie, who's sat in the back with her arm crossed, like, I think she's going to be a problem. And we're really confident in when we give that advice, because we're in 400 offices a month. So, like, we know how to recognize these things.
400 offices a month.
Yeah.
Oh, but I know my homie. He knows more than you. He's a dentist, damn it. And yeah, crazy.
But we just deal with it, right?
So I guess another way to ask that is, if you deal with 400 offices a month, how many of those offices do you need to fire someone?
I don't know a number, but I mean, our trainers, I bet they're encountering this monthly, an individual trainer, right? Where they either need to fire someone, Howard, or they need to, like, set that person straight, right? So it's the other thing we believe about, where we blend together coaching a doctor and training a team, is when we used to just do team training, we kind of created problems, right? Because we were training the team. And to your point, we were kind of like, Jay always says, training kind of shines the light on both the really great people that step up and rise to the occasion, but also kind of exposes the ones who aren't really good, right? And so, what we faced was the team. We trained teams first, so we were shining those lights. Well, then the doctors didn't know how to manage the high performers. So the high performers would they'd get bored, right? They wanted to hear a vision. They wanted to know this practice was going somewhere and that they had a future. Then the low performers were just killing the doctors, right? They were just beating them down, taking control. So, for that reason and others, Jay had to start coaching, right? Because these doctors needed to know how to, if you're a business owner, you're managing a team, right? You've got to keep people motivated. You've got to keep them excited about the future. You've got to help them get over those hurdles they face, right? And so that's, that was one of the ways coaching came to be. So now we're able, our best client has their team in ongoing training and the doctors in coaching, right? So nobody's ever really out ahead of anyone. I mean, the doctors should always kind of be out ahead of the team. But when we saw a team in training and a doctor wasn't in any kind of coaching, it's like a rowboat that's going in circles, right? And the team's like outperforming the doctor. And then you switch it and you got a doctor in coaching, but the team's not in training. And then the doctor's like, I'm running circles around these people, right? So that best combination is both, right? They're both constantly being developed as people and as, contributors to the growth of the practice. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The other problem that's so hard to do is when you get so many dentists who all have different philosophies on that. Like if I just take the most common questions, like they're going to call your office and say, how much you charge for a root canal? And then I have a couple alcoholic dentist friends who say, never tell them the price. And then my other favorite alcoholic dentist friends say, no, we always quote the fee. Same thing about insurance. I mean, so you got all these different dentists who have wildly opposite opinions. So I'm just going to throw that out. Kimeran, do you take my insurance? When is your first available appointment? When is your first available emergency appointment? This thing's hurting like hell. I couldn't sleep last night. How long will it take? And how much is this going to cost? I mean, there's about a dozen questions that they always ask. And for every question they ask, I can find a dozen different drinking dentists that have a different idea on how it should be answered.
That's right. That's right.
So,
well, and that's what we created, right? So we have like a 5-step system, right? We call it the 5-star call. So, and Jay discovered this 25 years ago in a practice he was working in where he was marketing guy, right? And he was responsible for new patients. So he was doing everything to generate new patients, but they weren't showing up on the schedule, and he's good at marketing. So he knew like something's not right, right? So the first thing he discovered was, well, the team is like taking lunch breaks and cutting out early, and we're closed on certain days. So that was like obvious. He fixed that, right, with a process. Then he realized, and by doing that, he had to bring someone into kind of his physical space to get them to answer when the practice wasn't answering. Well, while that lady was sitting in his physical space, he got to listen to what she was saying, right? So he got to hear her just like totally, to your point, changing the answer every time, not right, like not answering too much. And so then he realized, okay, there's to your point, 12 questions or whatever, and there's 52,000 ways to answer them. But if you answer each one this certain way, you'll get to the outcome you want, right? So he created this system. It's not scripts. It's like a mindset. And then we teach kind of like how you handle each of the 5 parts of the call. And so we help you understand. It's not like, well, if they ask this, say yes. And if they ask this, say no. It's like if they ask this question, here's how you answer to get them to the next step. And it all leads to getting them to schedule, right? So we're helping simplify that, right? They don't have to know all these answers. They're there to schedule the patient. So when the patient calls, you move them along in the call from kind of point 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, and then they're scheduled. Yeah. And then they deal with all that other stuff once they come in.
Go ahead, Matt.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. And that's where data is so important, because I mean, a key part here that I believe very much in all of the steps that Kimeran just outlined here, but knowing is this happening on every call? This is where the data is coming into play, because there are different philosophies out there. And then when we start working with a client, I believe in what Kimeran just outlined, but the data will tell you the story. And that's where the technology is such a key part of not only answering that question, but for all of the people just starting out there, how you'll have different opinions, you'll have different theories of what's going to work and what you want your practice to be, but the data tells the story, and the data will let you know what's working and where's there further optimization needed, and where do you need to tweak and adjust your plan.
And it's very, very, very emotionally frustrating when you got that dentist. He's got his FAGD and his MAGD, and he's got all these. He's got the entire alphabet soup behind his name, and he has seen the average to below average dentist from the dentist across the street for 20 years. And that guy has $1 million, $2 million practice and drives an F-350 Ford pickup truck because he gets an A on the phones and he gets an A on business. And the other dentist gets a F or a D on the phones and the business and all that stuff. But he's at the Pankey Institute every weekend trying to get the best crown margins. And I love him for it. But I really respect the dentist who focuses on his profit margins and his crown margins. I mean, you know, and the dentist who focuses on his profit margins usually can buy more toys and give his staff more raises and have more fun. I mean, there's nothing worse than in an office where they're trying to suck blood out of a turnip because there's no money and the ship is not upright and all that kind of stuff. You guys, was there anything that you want to talk about that I was too not smart enough to bring up?
I don't think so. I think it's good. It's
Absolutely.
like facts versus feelings, right? It's something we say here. Like, so that's kind of what we're talking about. Don't make decisions about your marketing. Don't make decisions about whether to fire someone based on feelings. Make it on facts, right? Get the data. Let the data tell you what to do. Jay always says, use the calculator, right? Use something that gives you the facts, not the feelings.
And if they wanted to contact you guys, should they go more to Callbox.com or jgeyer.com?
I would say both.
Yeah. Tracking, if you don't have, right? Because remember, this is two things that work together. So if you're tracking, Callbox, training, coaching, Scheduling Institute. And if you go on our website, you can take the 5-star challenge, Howard, which is you, as a part of that, you get that mystery call that I talked about. So if you don't mystery call your own office, who is, right? We'll do it for you.
So underneath the take the assessment, optimize your business, evaluate your life, that's where you take the quiz?
It says take the 5-star challenge.
Oh, the 5X challenge.
5-star challenge. Scheduling, not Jay Geyer. Go to schedulinginstitute.com.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Oh my God, I feel bad. Okay.
That's okay.
I always go to Jay Guy. I don't think I'm. This is all new to me. The Scheduling Institute. Why? Why would someone go to the schedulinginstitute.com instead of jgeyer.com?
I mean, right now, jgeyer.com is more about Jay and what he's doing. Right, he does a lot beyond. He's got a lot of mission work, and but Scheduling Institute is what we talked about today. Right, training, coaching.
Okay. So anyway, so if you go to schedulinginstitute.com about Scheduling Institute, our solutions, free assessments, 5-star challenge.
That's right.
Well, yes. You know what I would do? I would sue Jay. I'm serious. I would sue Jay because I think that 5X challenge, I think he's plagiarizing, stealing. I think he stole that from the Scheduling Institute.
What in the world?
What was he? Did he think he was not going to get caught? And what would you say to all my friends who are listening to this show who says, well, the FBI is already tracking all my calls. Do I still need Callbox? If the FBI
definitely do.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks so much. So go to Scheduling Institute. There's no the in that. It's just Scheduling Institute.
That's right.
Take the 5-star challenge, and just remember that I'm going to end the show with just this: for every 100 people that land on your website, only 3 convert to your deal. Fix that. Just fix that. If you just fix it from 3 to 6, you just went from $1 million to $2 million. For every 3 people that call your office, she only converts 1 to come in. Fix that. These people fixed it for Tom and Sharon Mattern across the street from me. I mean, you exploded their whole business. And I watched that, and it still took me 5 years to get smart enough to get that. Fix that. You need to record your calls. You need to have someone come in every month in your office where they sit the girls around. And usually it's pretty cool. They'll schedule one that's just like a blooper, one where everybody's like, really? Did you say that? And everybody's laughing. And then the next one's is like, wow, really? You just told someone we don't do Invisalign? Where does that come from? And then get your house in order. And you have to do all that before you do marketing, because when you do marketing, I don't care what you think of it worked. You don't even have the availability. And I'll tell you, it's not just Dennis. I went to dinner with this lawyer guy, and I don't want to say his name because everybody in town knows who he is, because he's on the back of the phone book. He's on all the billboards, on all the commercials, and he uses the same phone number on every one. And I said, well, how do you know that I'm calling from the billboard? How do you know? And he says, I don't know. And I'm like, well, you should know that. You really need to know that. You can't have the same phone number on every day. I mean, I own 8. I think before I met you, I had 3, and now I have, I think, 6. And so you guys, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Marketing is all about tracking. You guys, it was an honor for you to come on the show today. Do make the bloopers phone call. I think that would be.
We will.
Yeah, and no matter how many you make me, we'll just put them out. Kyle, we'll just put them out as deals. I mean, this is what your dental office is saying on the phone while you're back. When I go back there to do a root canal, and tomorrow, I'll have, 7 to 7. I'll probably, if I'm lucky, I'll probably have 4 molar root canals minimum tomorrow. And when you sit down to a molar, it's like Stevie Wonder. I mean, you're picking a lock. You're in the zone. You don't know where you are. And the weirdest thing about a root canal is when you sit down, the next time you look up, an hour's gone. I mean, you were just gone in the zone for an hour. And in that hour, you have no idea who called your office and what they said. And you guys could really bring it home by giving us a bloopers hour. But thank you so much for taking the time to come on my show today and talk to my homies. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Howard.
Thank you, Howard.
All right. Have a great day.